Welcome back to Waxing On. It's Monday. And usually we do jazz on Monday, and today's album is a little bit jazz as well. It was one of those discount bin, secondhand store albums that was dropped off for me, but boy, I wish I'd known about this one a lot sooner. It's the songs from West Side Story, and many of you may already be familiar with music from West Side Story, maybe most recently from Steven Spielberg's movie, but back into the 50s when we looked at it as Broadway and we had a original movie out. Music by Leonard Bernstein. I mean, this is just some great music. It stood the test of time for, well, what did we say, in mid-50s, 70 years? It's written lyrics by Stephen Sondheim, another great name in Broadway area and these kind of tunes. This music is just amazing. And I did have an album I was going to show you, and it was another discount bin find. It had 5 or 6 tracks, kind of like highlights from West Side Story. And then this one showed up, and I'll tell you, this is the one I'd be looking at right away. Just retelling of some of those great songs, or revisions. Now, if you watch the movie, you already know how great it is. Spielberg's movie, they adapted some of the music a little bit, from what Bernstein had originally written. But I'll tell you, the Bernstein stuff is great. If you get a chance to hear the whole soundtrack, I'd go for it. Just some classic music. Okay, this one, let's take a look. This is like an all-star cast again, another compilation album where people are featured doing tunes from soundtrack to West Side Story. We started off with a band called All for One, doing the tune Something's Coming. Boy Like That by Selena. Maria, Michael McDonald, a name that we're well familiar with. We featured him a little earlier in the show. James Ingram and David Pack. We got this one of my favorites, Brian Setzer Band, doing the prologue and Jet Song. Now, also featuring some great players. I mean, all of a sudden now we're cranking in some of those great studio guys I talked about before. We got Bernie Dressel on drums. We got Dan Forno on trumpet, Andy Martin on trombone. Just some of the great boys that we've talked about numerous times that were session players out here. We got the song Tonight, Kenny Loggins and Winona. I mean, you can't go wrong there. Song Cool, Patty Austin, Bruce Hornsby, Mervyn Warren. We've talked about Hornsby before, both on his own albums and when he sat in with the Grateful Dead. Some great stuff. And on here they feature the Jerry Hay horns. Now, Jerry Hay was a ranger, trumpet player, Los Angeles. He had a horn section that showed up a lot of times, kind of like the Wrecking Crew, showing up doing a lot of background work. So he's got Gary Grant with him on trumpet, Bill Reichenbach, who played bass trombone, and he seems to show up everywhere on the bass trombone there. Let's see, Somewhere by Aretha Franklin. I mean, what are you going to say? Right, Aretha Franklin. Excellent stuff. The song America by Natalie Cole and Patti LaBelle and Sheila E. I Feel Pretty. Who is it? Hey, it's Little Richard. Sure, we've talked about Little Richard before. Little Richard doing this tune, and he's also featuring the Jerry Hay horns on here. One Hand, One Heart, Tevin Campbell, G Officer Croup. We got Salt-N-Pepa, Def Jeff, Lisa Left Eye Lopez of TLC, the Jerky Boys, Johnny Brennan, Kamal and Paul Rodriguez. Have a Love with Trisha Yearwood. Prelude to the Rumble featuring Chick Corea as a solo piano improvisation. We've got the Rumble with Steve Vai's Monsters and Chick Corea Electric Band. I mean, who isn't playing on here? Prelude to Somewhere with the orchestra, Marty Patch is directing, and Somewhere by Phil Collins. Now, we've talked about that song before, if you remember, and I said one of my favorite versions of that tune, if you get a chance to listen to it, is Tom Waits' version of Somewhere on Blue Valentine, featuring that great LA trumpet player, Jack Sheldon. We can't get enough of Jack Sheldon, but Jack used to sit in once in a while and do a few licks for Tom Waits, and there was one on this one that's just excellent. Tom Waits, Somewhere, Phil Collins on this album. Okay, and that's it. 16 tunes, some of the great artists of Vieira, doing some of the greatest music out of the last 6 or 7 decades. Music from West Side Story, Leonard Bernstein. Well worth checking out if you get a chance. Give it a listen. This one, again, was a secondhand store find, and I mean, what a treasure. I mean, we're talking a couple of bucks for an album like this. You can't go wrong. Give it a listen if you can find it online. If you find a hard copy, even better. You get the booklet with it, right? Okay, that's it for Monday. Music from West Side Story. We'll see you on Wednesday. We'll be back with classic rock. Until then, everybody take care. Stay safe. Thanks for stopping by.